Do you feel that?
Yes.
What is that? It's a feeling of
I think at the very heart of what we wanted to create was an experience of interconnectedness. We hope that audiences that come and see this show are reawakened to their connection to nature.
I've never seen a play outside before where you had to like walk with them.
People find purpose, experience awe and mystery, and healing in nature.
Nature, Walking with Emerson and Thoreau, is a partnership co-production of Twin Cities PBS and TigerLion Arts, celebrating spirit and nature through the arts.
History can be remarkable, and history can make you see the world differently.
Ralph Waldo Emerson, born May 25th, 1803.
Boston, Massachusetts.
David Henry Thoreau,
Born July 12th, 1817.
Concord, Massachusetts.
Everywhere we go, the show changes based on the location and the environment.
Here we go. Ching-a-ring-ching-ching. Oh, ding-ding-cum-larky. Ching-a-ring-ching-ching. Oh, a ding-cum-larky.
At every location, we recruit volunteer singers from the community, and this chorus becomes integrated into our show.
When the morning comes, all in grandest splendor, stand out in the sun and hear the horn.
So months and months in advance, we're starting to incorporate local community members into the piece.
The girl who plays the role of Ellie Emerson, Ralph Waldo Emerson's daughter, is a different actor at every location that we go to.
What? Come back! What? Helen Emerson, come back right now! Can't hear you!
It is a way to really engage directly with the community.
Once we get them in, we got them. There's also a wonderful sort of gravitational pull that a audience has in a public park, where people start seeing the crowd and they start going to it and they start growing, and it grows and it grows and it grows. Sometimes we'd have 300-400 people come from just the woods and the paths and just join the production.
There's a quote, and I don't remember who said it. Seek not to follow in the footsteps of the great. Seek what they sought.
I think the Thoreau-Emerson friendship was one of the greatest literary friendships in history. We tend to look at iconic figures, whether it's Thoreau or Emerson, as these statues in stone. And when we say the words of somebody like Thoreau or Emerson, we lower our voice and give it gravitas and be very serious. And we forget that both men had a sense of humor.
I created this piece with my wife, Markel Kiefer, and our close friend, Sam Elmore.
The genesis of this piece is friendship. The friendship between Tyson and myself, and our shared curiosity about the friendship between Emerson and Thoreau, and their shared love of nature and of being outside and of taking walks.
We also spoke at length about Tyson's connection to Ralph Waldo Emerson. He is the great-great-great-grandson of Ralph Waldo Emerson, and his desire to create a piece that really honored Emerson's legacy. The closer I became to him and to his family, their focus on the importance of nature. It is in their every move, spending time out in nature as really spiritual practice. It is their spiritual practice.
Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house, a world, and beyond its world, a heaven.
They went so deep into their explorations of nature and how it related to humanity. While they are beautiful ideas, philosophies, notions, this is a living system, and it's not just an intellectual system. It's an actual, there are smells and tastes and feelings and emotions, and they're out there for us to experience. That is why these two characters matter. We're asking you in the play, and Emerson and Thoreau are asking you to go out and experience this for yourself.
Build, therefore, your own world. Build your own world.
For Emerson, who was the great intellectual of his day and the great orator, the great lecturer, his first book was called Nature, and is very inspirational to a lot of people, including Thoreau, who read it when he was at Harvard.
I believe that Emerson and Thoreau are early environmentalists, and essentially they were talking in different ways about sustainability.
They're great minds who were thinking very daring and revolutionary and kind of rebellious thoughts in their time.
This one thing I do know for sure. We must all return to nature. Yes, nature. Within my deepest reflection, this thought of interconnection. Yes, we are all interconnected.
We imagine them, they've just met, they've just become friends, and we imagine the walk being sort of the evolution of their friendship as their friendship goes from first meeting into sort of a budding friendship.
On your toes, off we go!
We kind of got to walk alongside them and experience that closeness with the people that we were walking with. We were all walking in nature just like they did.
Most people, once they step outside, they remember how much they love nature. So the nature allows them to open. The walking allows the audience to open. When we move our bodies, our minds, and our hearts, and everything just starts feeling synchronized and harmonious again.
As we moved, you start to notice the stones in the ground, you start to notice the roots of the trees, you start to notice the canopies of the trees and how they change with the light. You hear all these noises all around us that are all part of that orchestra.
To experience something that transports us beyond ourselves, that really is experienced almost exclusively in natural areas, is something that adds great richness and depth to our lives and spurs deeper and broader thinking about our place in the world. The idea of protecting areas of nature, large areas of the country that we set aside, both for human recreation and also for natural benefit, that is a uniquely American idea that's been exported all across the world. And it's rooted very much in the values that Emerson and Thoreau were communicating back at that time.
You have sort of the teacher and student dynamic. In the beginning, Thoreau being 14 years younger than Emerson already being an established intellectual at the time.
I liked Henry Thoreau, I think. He seemed like the kind of person you would want to hang out with.
Young David sits
on the shores of Walden Pond.
It left quite an impression.
I often introduce Thoreau to student groups as the hermit who loved society, and the vegetarian who ate meat, and the teetotaler who sometimes drank tea or a glass of wine. That there's no Thoreauvian idea which you can't find the opposite of in Thoreau. And that's the part of Thoreau that I love, that constantly re-questioning and reevaluating who he is.
The modern interpretation of Thoreau as some outcast out into the far distant wilderness all on his own is really a total misinterpretation of what his actual experience was. He was not far from town. He went back into town often to have dinner with his mother and to spend time with friends and neighbors. Thoreau's experience in nature was not about being apart. It was really about being together, both with people and with the natural environment.
A letter.
A letter!
A letter!
A letter! All aboard! All aboard!
The Transcendentalist movement was a joyful movement.
A letter.
It had that creativity that comes out of childhood, that sort of a reimagination of all of these old ideas and finding sort of new fruit out of them.
Water? Thank you. Go. Ah.
We want the show to resonate on multiple levels. We want it to speak to children. That's always kind of a baseline for us. We feel like if we can't keep them on board, we stand a good chance of losing all the adults too.
Just hang out with Tyson and Markel for a couple hours and you can't not have that physicality and that humor.
And I've got a little spider right here. He's just coming to the piece. Hello, welcome to the show.
Come, sit.
We also want to create a storyline that people can keep diving into, and that has the extremes of human relationship in it.
Every location is completely different, and it informs how the play lives in its place. The trees, the landscape, the weather literally change how the piece is, certainly how it's performed, and I think how it's experienced.
I think especially in Washburn Fair Oaks Park, there was that contrast of civilization and industry all around us, and us having to compete with that and bring and call upon the sort of spirit of nature to speak as loudly as all those forces around us, as the planes, as the ambulances, as I-35 racing by.
This bleak world alone.
We had Nora Long come into the piece, who's an incredible vocalist in Minneapolis. And she's in this presence of Mother Nature, a presence that hardly ever speaks. So it really is a presence. It's beautiful to have a human embodiment of that, to take it out of the abstract.
The location informs the experience of the audience because they get to experience maybe a place that they love through a completely different lens.
Your head can get your hold. To the fields we go. To the fields! We are blessed with the work that makes us whole. We one with the soil.
We make use of depth, of space, natural landscape in a way that you never could inside in a theater. So we spend a lot of time really finding those most sacred spots and integrating them into the show.
To perform here in Concord has been on our bucket list from the beginning.
This really is the epicenter of the nature movement and the conservation movement. It really did start here in Concord.
The first time I met Tyson, I felt like I am sitting in the room with Emerson. It was freaky. You can see the Emerson family, the Emerson traits, the stature right there in this man.
There is a strong Emerson family resemblance. You can see it in all the generations, and in some individuals it pops up even more. You grow out the chops, you part the hair, you throw on the top and tails, and it certainly draws out that resemblance. Doing it on the property of the old manse, it feels like the gap between in history, in generations, is just totally taken away, and that there's just this direct flow of information and energy from 5, 6, 7 generations back right into the present. The house that was built for my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, William Emerson, where nature was written, Mosses from an Old Manse, Nathaniel Hawthorne's was written. This incredible history of the Transcendentalists was flourishing at the Old Manse. So to walk on that property, to feel the energy of the place, it was just a magical feeling. A number of times I was just brought to tears, just sort of feeling the resonance of the generations of my family, of Transcendentalism, of environmentalism that had come from that area.
Now is a time when we are more estranged from nature than ever.
I came here seeking solitude, and then the steam engine moves next door. Progress. Progress? No, it is profit. Profit and greed.
And essentially, they were talking in different ways about sustainability. And I think their big conflict happened ideologically in thinking is between the intellect and the heart.
Henry, while I regret they have routed the tracks through your backyard, there are numerous advantages to the railroad.
At what cost?
Well, that depends on how we lay the track.
And are you so certain that we should be laying track at all?
Emerson thought progress was a part of nature, and Thoreau thought that progress, at least the way he saw progress, was against nature. And those two ideas really drove them apart and disrupted their relationship for many years.
The world will not go back to the old ways, Henry, but progress into an unknown future of which I hope to shape. Your voice will not be heard from the shores of Walden.
It is not I that wishes to be heard, but the shores of Walden. I want to hear the shores of Walden.
The world needs you.
No, it doesn't need me. It needs less of all of us. Simplify.
Selfish.
Simplify. Simplify. I think, of course, of the volcanic repeating rifle, where a single man can do the work of 100.
You'll see that the actors are really intentionally engaging. They are intentionally creating direct moments of connection with the audience through the eyes. And by the end of the show, we hope that the audience feels like a community, like a group of individuals in community that have gone through an experience together.
Emerson being sort of more in this worldly, expansive universe, going on a lecture circuit throughout Europe, throughout the United States. Thoreau, much more kind of sort of a micro focus in the Concord ecosystem and that community. You know, sort of one person focusing in on the atom and the other person focusing in on the universe. And then you have just the very human relationship between the two of them. The closeness that Thoreau shared with the Emerson family, living with the family over the years, the very close relationship that he had with their children, with Emerson's wife, Lydian. It was very surprising for us to delve deeper and deeper into the story and realize, wow, this was a real intense coming together and a really intense breaking apart.
Have I been an influence on Henry Thoreau?
Have I been influenced by Waldo Emerson?
Well, at one point he showed much potential, but lately his verses are often rude and defective.
Emerson is a critic, poet, philosopher with talent not so conspicuous, not so adequate for his task.
Companions lie faded and gone. No
At the end of the show, this wedge has now driven itself in between Emerson and Thoreau. They're becoming sort of estranged, and they're now going back through this field that was such a source of joy for them, and they're now walking through it in the sort of winter of their life and of their friendship.
When Thoreau died, Emerson is continually reading Thoreau's works again and again and again, reading his journals and learning more about who this man was that he lost, this friend. And when Emerson was in his late 70s, the name Thoreau, Emerson couldn't come up with anymore. His mind was starting to go a little bit, and he had to call the Lydian, his wife, into the next room and say, "What was the name of my best friend?" The thing he remembers in his heart is that that person was his best friend.
The country knows not yet, or in the least part, how great a son it has lost.
Everyone is different in their own way, but there's always that one thing that can bring people together. And in this play, it was nature.
How do we work our way through this world and appreciate what's around us while we have it?
It was a chance to look to my right, look to my left, share a smile or even a word with one of my neighbors whom I'd never met. But now I'm sure we are bonded for life. It's not just a theatrical experience, it's a spiritual experience.
They were real people, and to see them as real people just completely transforms the way I think about them.
This idea of interconnection, it's not just Mother Nature or environmental nature, it's human nature, and I feel like we're all a part of the same nature.
Thoreau said, every child begins the world again, and it was like seeing it through a child's eyes, just those little moments, those little miracles in the play. So I was taking in both the bigger, heavier thoughts and also those little magical moments.
To be able to also stand back and witness the show in conversation with the space, nature just is so profound and is constantly playing with us and singing to us and speaking to us and sharing her beauty with us. So to be able to witness that interchange between our piece and its natural environment is really one of the most profound experiences I've ever had.
Everything that changes in this world always comes down to one human being. Some one individual has to think the thought that then resonates out. So we as individuals have to make that change.
What I hear them saying is do. Do something. Engage. Build your own world.
Nature, Walking with Emerson and Thoreau is a partnership co-production of Twin Cities PBS and TigerLion Arts, celebrating spirit and nature through the arts. Funding has been provided by, with additional support from